Liberals are saying, and the liberals in the California State Assembly are arguing, that this bill only targets conversion therapy or sexual orientation change efforts, that it wouldn't target traditional Christian views or traditional Christian counseling on these types of matters. And they're wrong if you look at the actual text of the bill. So I want to show you. This is graphic number 2. Assembly Bill 2943 makes it an unlawful business practice to engage in a transaction intended to result or that results in the sale or lease of goods or services to any consumer that advertise, offer to engage in, or do engage in sexual orientation change efforts with an individual. That, of course, is the premise of liberals' arguments that, oh, this is just about sexual orientation change efforts. But read a little further down the bill, it actually defines what they mean by sexual orientation change efforts. They say sexual orientation change efforts are defined as any practices that seek to change an individual's sexual orientation. This includes efforts to change behaviors or gender expressions, or to eliminate or reduce sexual or romantic attractions or feelings towards individuals of the same sex. Dr. Myers, given that in mind, if you were to teach a student at this conference, listen, if you're trying to live your life by the Bible, it says, it says that homosexuality is something you should abstain from. It says that sex before marriage is something you should abstain from. Were you worried that the government would target you over telling a student that?
I don't think there's any question that that was the intent. Now, I know people have said the guy who sponsored the bill has said that was not his intent, but it clearly is. In the state of California, to put a bill before the assembly, you have to have lawyers look at it to make sure that it clearly communicates what you intend for that bill to do. So it was our judgment that even if the bill doesn't pass, I can't imagine that because the Senate, it would pass 50 to 18 in the lower house. It would be unimaginable if the Senate decides to not pass it. The governor will sign it if both houses pass it. That was our judgment, looking at it from the state of Colorado. And if it goes into effect, what you have said is exactly right. So we have speakers like Christopher Yuan, who is a former homosexual, who says, I'm a former homosexual. I do not act out my sexual desire. I'm a celibate man. And if he said, I advise my students to do the same thing, and he has sold a book to them to do that, or we've charged a conference fee for them to receive that, then we would fall under the auspices of this bill. But even if it didn't pass, if you think about it, it's always the symbolism of a bill, right? It's what people would do. It's the shakedown artists and personal injury attorneys and so forth who would try to go after little programs like ours because they think there's going to be a financial reward, and if they don't, if we don't pay up, then they refer us for fraud charges and so forth. It's the kind of thing. It's this kind of thing that street lawyers do, and essentially the state of California is holding our arms behind our back while we get the shakedown. We just aren't going. We don't have to do that. There are 49 free states, and hopefully the state assembly will come to its senses, and Californians will hold them to account.
Right.